Welcome to the 13 comics of Halloween.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the 13 Comics of Halloween. Today we are doing The Haunt of Horror, which I had never heard of this series before. This is specifically the H.P. Lovecraft's Haunt of Horror, because there was a couple different series under different names for, like, there was an Edgar Allan Poe one, I think, also of Haunt of Horror. But this was a Marvel Max series, so it's like an adult line of, like, Punisher Max that we read earlier. Like,
Yeah.
Like, it's like that. So
we're like, let's check this one out. Maybe there's some.
yeah, I was like, whoa, I don't know what's in this, but it's a Max series, so it must be crazy. And it's written and drawn by Richard Corbin. And Richard Corbin, for anybody who doesn't know, he worked for heavy metal a lot in the 70s. He did a lot of concept art for, like, I think he did stuff for, like, Dune and Alien and stuff like that. He was at least with those guys, like all Mobius and those people. He was with all those people in the same time frame, doing stuff for heavy metal. His most famous, like, heavy metal creation was actually in the movie, the 80s movie with the animated adult movie. And his section was the one about Den, which was the John Candy.
That's right.
What's it called? Voiced, nerd that becomes like a He-Man ultimate lover in a foreign land or whatever. Like, so that's his biggest creation that, like, everybody knows of him. But he's a great artist.
He's a fantastic artist.
And very, very unique style. You don't see too much anything like this anymore. So once I saw this was like a thing, I'm like, holy shit, we need to read this because it's got to be cool. It's got to at least look cool. So, we'll check it out. But so we did this just the first issue. It's a 3-issue limited series. And it's just him, like, basically translating stories or short stories or poems of H.P. Lovecraft's into little, like, in a little anthology comic series. So this first issue, it has three stories. And it's cool because, like, John was telling me before I checked this one out that he does, like, little, he actually shows the real story at the end of them, so you can read the real story and see how he translated it onto the page.
Yeah, it's cool because some of them, again, like you said, they're short stories, and so you can see it's much more drawn out for him to pull things from. But some of these are just a short little poem. Like, there's one, in this one specifically, there's one that, like, it's like a 10 stanza poem.
Yeah.
And he fleshed it out in the drawings. This is really cool. Yeah. So this is a neat read. I really enjoyed the concept.
Yeah. And I'll just describe this dude's art. It's all in black and white. And he uses, instead of, like, cross hatching for shadowing, he does, like, dots. So a lot of dots or, like, little dashes. And so it just gives his characters, like, completely different looks and feels. I don't it's like the best way I could describe it. His humans look like humans, but they have, like hair is not super fine. It's, like, stringy, almost like spaghetti. It's like, I don't know. He's got a very, like, very claymation almost looking. Like, if you're gonna make clay figures, his art would be like a good version of, like, how to do that. Like,
definitely,
yeah. So
especially
it would translate well.
This, like, horror-esque, like, H.P. Lovecraft's what you think style. Like, it definitely is a good fit.
Yeah, yeah. So this first story is called Dagon, or Dagon. I don't know. Yeah, and so
I only know that because my wife. So I barely knew
my wife. That's
because the new Borat movie came out. That's the only reason we're making new references to a 10-year-old property. My wife loves Lovecraft, and she, like, in the stories in general, like his writings, and because he's
not the racist.
He is a controversial character,
yes.
But she likes the lore of all these creatures.
Cthulhu and all that.
Yeah, exactly. She like that was one of our first big things. She's like, I love Cthulhu. I was like, well, Cthulhu is like a big monster from the sea or something, right? And, like, she's like, no, hold on.
Yeah.
And, like,
how dare you?
She could take you down a rabbit hole and, like, tell you all of the big gods, elder gods. Sorry, make sure I get it right. Elder gods and monsters. She's gonna listen to this and be
You're
like,
gonna get quizzed, John.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so I didn't really have too much background in general. There's a few of them I know a little more, but anyway, in this, yeah, it is Dagon.
Dagon, okay.
So yeah,
and it starts off. There's, like, a dude in a room, and he's writing like a memoir kind of, of like what's of like something he went through, and basically he was on a ship that got sunk during, was it World War I or II? I think it's one, because he was earlier. So he was on like a ship that got sunk by a German sub in World War I, and then he was able to make it to a lifeboat, and he's on a lifeboat with 2 other guys, and then they like kick him off the lifeboat and throw him in the water because he says something like what he says something to piss him off. I can't remember what he says.
He's basically like complaining
because he's a scientist, and they're like actual seamen, so they're like, "Oi, you fucker! Like, you ain't one of us. Get out of the boat. You know, you're gonna eat all the supplies. You stupid scientist." And that's my weird mishmash of British / Australian accent. I'm gonna say. But so they throw him overboard, and they think it's pretty funny. But then he wakes up after being thrown overboard and thought he like drowned, or drowned. He was like, I swam and I stayed afloat as long as I could. And then I got tired, so tired, and I thought I was gonna die. And it shows him like actually underwater, like basically drowning. And then he wakes up and he's on the boat again. And the 2 guys are gone.
They're not there this time. Exactly.
Yeah, and he's like, "What the fuck happened?" And so he's on the boat. He's like, "Cool. I mean, their supplies are still here." So he eats all that, and he's able to live. And then, before he knows it, like he wakes up again, and he's on a beach, and it's like abandoned, but he sees like a weird tower kind of thing in the distance. So he like walks over to it, and he realizes, this is not like a human tower or like something that humans made.
Now there's like pictographs and carvings and definitely some like maybe native-esque.
Yeah, native, but not human native.
Not human native.
He's like, there is definitely like another type of humanoid maybe, or something, other creature that has the smarts to have a language, because there's like pictographs and all that on it. And then before he like, I guess he was just staring at it and didn't realize all these fuckers like surrounded him.
Started drowning him.
But like he hears like boom, boom, like big drums and stuff. And he turns around and there's all these like fish people. And they start like throwing all these fish and like sea creatures and stuff onto the altar that's like right where he's standing. And it turns out all these fish people are going to like sacrifice all these fish and everything to Dagon?
Dagon, yeah.
Okay.
It's another like large sea.
It looks like a big
creature.
Octopus more than Cthulhu does.
Definitely.
Yeah. But it actually looks like a full octopus, but it's like giant. It comes from the sky and it comes down and it's like, and it like eats all the fish and everything. And then,
so he freaks out and he runs to his boat.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up again.
Yeah. And he's like in a hospital. He's like, "Oh my God, I came down the shadows and everything." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And he's in like basically a hospital / mental asylum, because he can't like figure out what happened and what's real and what's not. And I guess finally he like he escapes, and he gets to like a room that he rents or whatever, or at least sneaks into or something.
Yeah.
And this is where we're at now, kind of back to the beginning of the story. And he's writing and he says, "I wonder why they didn't take me when they could. What are they saving me for? I think the end is near." And then like he hears like next to the door like a flipper, like a wet flipper on the door handle or something. He's like, what's that? And then the snap, the door cracks open, and then he's like, "No, you'll never get me, never." And then like as he's about to jump out the window, you see like a mer hand, like a fish hand coming towards him. So then it ends. It's like dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So it was like, what was real, what wasn't real. Oh, but the fish people were always gonna get him, or was he? You know, it was cool.
Yeah, it was a cool like fun story of just like where's this going? You know, like he's all over the place. It's so like it's scary in a way because it's just disorienting, because you're like, what's real and what's not?
Yeah.
You know, was that all in his head? Was it not? Is this all in his head? Because
is he just
did he just pass out in a ship and like make up those 2 guys? Because also the 2 guys that were on his ship at first, they didn't have faces. They were like blacked out and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like maybe he just made up this like fish story and then was actually found, and he'd been in the sun for so long, and he's just crazy now. And
too much seawater.
Exactly. Yeah, he drank too much seawater. So don't you know that poem? Water everywhere. Let's all have a drink. So yeah. So that was a fun little story. Then the next one's called The Scar. I thought this one was cool. It was like I didn't see the twist coming at all.
Yeah.
At the end of this one, but there's an old man and he's walking through a wheat field or some kind of meadow. It says, and he hears like a faint rustling, and he sees a boy, and the boy's looking at him, and they're talking. It's kind of like a thickety area where there's all these branches and stuff where the boy was. So they're like, now they're standing around all this stuff, and then they're like, the woods can be dangerous at night, kid. And the kid's like, whatever. Like, I keep hearing noises, but we should get out of here. And they're like, okay, well, like, let's light this torch.
And he takes his last match, and lights up a piece of timber that they were looking through because they're like, some of these are too wet or whatever. So he lights up this last piece of timber. He's like, we just gotta stay close to the fire. This will be safe.
Yeah, and then the kid's like, what? And then all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 and they're like, what the fuck is that? There's a lot of booms that are scary in his books, I guess.
Yeah. But he a lot of onomatopoeia.
Yeah. And so then like the old man and him are like running, and then the kid like takes the fire from the old man, like kind of like, I'm gonna lead the way, but then he just starts running too fast, and the old man's like, wait, don't take the torch, I can't run as fast as you. And he's like, tough old man. Just a little jerk. Yeah, fuck you. So then he like outruns the old man, leaves the guy there in the dark, and he keeps running, and all of a sudden you hear like, ah! And it's like, oh fuck, like that must have been the old guy.
They must have got him.
They must have got him.
Whoever that is.
Yeah, whoever it was. Then he, as he's running through this like thicket of wood and like dead trees and all this stuff, he sees like, it looks like an Aztec temple with like the stairs and stuff. So he like sees that, and he goes all the way to the top. He's like, what the heck is this thing? Like basically kind of like, this is a good place because it's like higher than the trees.
Yeah, he can see
and they can see stuff, and I'll have the fire with me. So he's got his fire, and he's looking at this thing, this like altar, and he keeps hearing like thump, 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 and then he looks, and all of a sudden these basically they're like Ents,
yeah,
like evil Ents,
evil tree creatures.
And they're like coming to get him. They're called the Yugoth. And they're coming to get him. They're trying to like grab him with the branches and stuff. Their like hands come out, and like I don't know. It seems like if he's running through it, you could film this in a really cool way where like you can't tell if he's just getting caught on branches or if it's the trees are like, is it in his mind or is it actually the trees have come to life and are catching him. But yeah, so he's running from them, and then he gets cornered by one, and it like grabs him, and the vines like get around his feet and shit, and he's able to like burn it finally. He's like, finally, I got one. But all these people are like, all these bad monsters are coming away from him, and so then he sees the old man, and the old man is like inside of one of the trees, and it's like melding with him, like under his skin and stuff, and he's like, please help me, just come wave the torch at me.
Yeah, just use the fire, it'll make it, let me go.
It stop like going under my skin, please. And the kid's like, but what if it like puts the fire out? Like he's like, I could save him, but
yeah, the boy legitimately is like, I could save him, but actually no.
I don't want to. And so he just runs away. He's like, no, I can't. And then you hear like, ah, again. So like the old man. And then as he's thinking like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't, he trips on a vine. And then another branch comes out of the ground and stabs him in the eye. We should have said this earlier, I guess. But the old man also only had one eye.
Yeah, one eye was like kind of white, milky, glossed over.
Yeah, and then the old man appears behind him, and it says, all too late, I knew that it was I. So, like, basically that the old man is that kid, and they're in some kind of, like, loop.
Oh, yeah, some kind of, horrible loop, just reliving this.
Because he's an asshole kid, probably. And he's trying to teach himself as a young, as an old man, trying to be like, come on, kid, do the right thing. And he's like, fuck you, old man. Every time. That's horrible. Yeah, it sounds terrible. This is the one you were saying was like only a little tiny poem.
Yeah, and all of this was taken from just a short poem.
Yeah. And the last one is called A Memory. And this one was creepy, I thought. This one was like, ugh.
Yeah, no.
This one really felt kind of like a heavy metal story too. The art, specifically because there's like a priestess lady in it, and she looked very like heavy metalish to me. But like, there's a guy, and he's in a Sherpa guide, I guess, and they're like climbing up like an Everest kind of place, but like I don't know how high it is, but they're wearing like super thick clothes and everything, so I'm assuming it's cold.
Yeah.
We don't know where they are, but it seems like this guy's just kind of here, and he's like they're like, why are you coming here? The Sherpa asks, and the guy's like, well, my family has like, or like this mystery has haunted my family for generations, and it's like we're always called to like this place.
Yeah, my father disappeared here.
Yeah, like we don't know, but basically we want to find something here. And then he like sees an artifact on the ground. He's like, what's that? It's shiny. You know, if it's something shiny, you got to pick it up. So he picks it up and he's like, some sort of piece of metal. And he picks it up and it like transports him into like old time world, like with like knights and fucking, it looked like Crusades almost. So I don't know where this is supposed to be, but it looked kind of like, because the guy's wearing kind of like Crusader helmets kind of stuff.
Yeah, it looks
that's kind of why I felt this one was like heavy metalish, because it's very like, and now you're transported into a new world and you're a knight and they're like burning people and stuff. So he wakes up in this new world. He's on a horse and he's like having a vision, he says, but then it's very real to him. So basically he's like, this guy was supposed to clear out this town that they thought had bad people in it, but it didn't. It only had like old women and kids and like men that were too old to fight, and they like made a mistake and started killing them. And then they're like, oh well,
yeah. Then they realized,
just like,
wait a minute,
yeah, we can't just like have them spreading rumors that the king killed old men and women. So then they just like burn the whole town alive, and they're like, the king must not know of our blunder or whatever. And so it doesn't seem like they really care though, like on morally, because like they just go in and they start storming and cutting off arms.
Yeah, no, they're like, oh fuck, we messed up. Okay, well let's finish the job and get out of here quick.
Yeah. Well, this is the one that's really feels like a Mac story, because there's actual like blood and guts and like they're chopping off children's arms and like fucked up shit, and he's smiling while he's like smashing a child's face and stuff. So it's pretty messed up. And then basically they kill everybody except this last witch woman, they call her. And she's like, today you've earned yourself a place under the devil's arse. And, like basically she like curses him. She says, she says, by my mistress Shub Nugarath. I don't know what that is.
That's I guess
some other god or something.
The god creature or whatever. From this,
that she serves. She's like, basically, she shall take you and take your children and your children's children and all the way down.
Yeah, just so on and so forth, like legitimately forever.
Yeah, and as she's saying this, he's like, shut up, and he just stabs her in the face, like through her neck, like while she's talking, all this blood's coming up out of her mouth as she's saying this. And then all of a sudden he's like, huh, that's weird. And he's got the same like medallion that basically was her medallion. So he like pulls it off her neck. So it's the medallion that the guy found at the beginning. He now pulled it off this lady's neck, and he's holding it, and he's like, "Oh, this. Like, I feel really warm.
This is so weird.
It's weird. I got like a weird tingly feeling." And then all of a sudden he bursts into flames. So he bursts into flames. He's like immolated, and then we cut back to the regular. Like the regular time where where we're at the beginning.
Yeah, where he picked up the artifact.
Yeah, he's like, wow, that was that was a crazy vision.
It was a crazy vision. It felt so real.
It seemed so real and so horrible. And then like the Sherpa's like, hey, could you lend me a hand and grab some more of that brush for the fire? And he throws the medallion on the ground. And then he's like, did you say something? And then he like walks over to her because she's not talking to him anymore. And then she looks at him. And he looks at her, and then she pulls like her hood back, and it's the witch lady from the dream he just had.
Yeah.
And she's like, I shall take your children and your children's children to the end of time. And he's like, what? No. And then he just like bursts into flames and like basically dissolves into like dust.
Vaporizes.
Yeah, vaporizes, and his bones like crunch.
Yeah, so that's fun. Like it's legitimately like, why does my family keep having weird stuff up here? I'm gonna go investigate.
Yeah.
And then that's the next one. And I guess, like whoever takes them on the journey is like disguised or something. And then they get up there and.
Yeah.
Or they don't realize
maybe
how they
the
look.
medallion like transports her back to or whatever.
To the.
So either one, we don't know, but
either way, it's a creepy and very cool story.
Yeah, and the way that she looks is super creepy, and it just felt very like heavy metal story to me, but in a good way. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's like the 3 solid stories, and like we said, there's more, and every issue is like a little anthology of other stories that he illustrated. So on that note, what would you give this one, John?
It was solid. It was fun. The art was cool. It was a good all around. Like, oh, these are fun little stories. I can see why people like some of Lovecraft's ideas. Like they're creepy and cool.
Yeah,
I would give it a 7. It was solid. I would totally read more.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 7 as well. I mean, Richard Corbin, anything he does, I'm like, yes. and then he did a really good job of like interpreting the stories in a creepy way and making them feel extra creepy. So, so I'm saying creepy a lot, but that's the best way I can describe it. So yeah, on that note, we'll see you guys next time
on the next creepy one.
Bye.